Welcome to episode number 5 on the My Story podcast. The My Story podcast features interviews with leaders, influencers, and entrepreneurs who tell us their story and the life lessons they've learned along the way. Hi, my name is Conrad Weaver, and I'm the host for the show. I'm a filmmaker, entrepreneur, a storyteller, and I love sailing. So if anyone out there has a sailboat and you need a first mate, let me know. I'll be happy to go along with you. And I'm so happy you've stopped by to listen to the show today. We're about to listen to an interview I did recently with Jennifer Abernethy. She's known as America's sales and social marketing stylist. Jennifer is truly living the social life, and we're going to learn how she went from a very successful sales job to becoming one of the leading stars of the social media marketing landscape. But first, a word about our sponsor for today's episode. Conjo Studios is an award-winning video production company whose focus is helping you tell your story. They love telling stories that matter. So if you have a corporate message or even a documentary you want to produce, Conjo Studios has the experience and the knowledge to get the job done on time and within your budget. Visit conjostudios.com, click on the blue Get a Quote button, and let them know what you need. Then watch your stress melt away as their team does the magic of producing your next video or film project. That's Conjo Studios, telling stories that matter. And now on to today's show and my interview with Jennifer Abernethy. Jennifer, welcome to the My Story podcast.
Hey, Conrad. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You and I met at your very first book launch party, right?
Yeah, that was back in 2009.
And you've since delivered a second book, right?
Yeah, the second one came out in 2012, and I'm currently working on a third book, which I can fill you in on a little bit later.
That is awesome. So I was browsing your website, sociallydelivered.com, and on the website you say you are a social business stylist.
Yes.
What is that?
Well, I work with businesses literally from Cape Town, South Africa to Silicon Valley. And we help them tell their digital story online. And sometimes they need a little styling, a little finessing on how to, tell that story in a unique way so that it will attract new eyeballs, new prospects, new referral partners, new opportunities to their business on all those.
Boy, that is so important to look right, to sound right, to have the right messaging for your business.
It really is, but it's more important too, though, to be your voice, your personality, not mimicking someone else. But who are you? Who do you want to be? And how do you want to come across to the people who are seeing you online? So that's really where we help them.
Very cool. So you are basically an expert in all things social?
Yeah, love social, in the digital space, and starting to get now into virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality.
Wow. So how does that work in the marketing world?
Well, basically what's going to happen is the virtual reality and augmented reality is going to lay on top of the current social media channels. So it's already happening. Like if you see something called, Snapchat.
Sure.
And Snapchat, you see people with the big, the glasses on, or the,
gotcha.
Things like that's
silly
augmented.
Little pictures you see.
Yeah, silly little pictures. That's augmented reality. And so that's starting to layer on top of that social network. And we're going to start seeing virtual reality come to Facebook and LinkedIn, where we'll all wear these virtual glasses or eventually virtual contact lenses. And we'll be able to experience feeling like we're actually in the same room or at the same location with the people we're connected to on social media.
Now, I remember a couple of years ago, I saw you posted something that you were testing out some Google Glass things.
Yes.
I don't think that lasted very long, right?
It didn't last. In fact, I have a headshot of me with those Google glasses on. And I knew at the time when I got that picture taken that it was going to be outdated pretty quickly. And someone the other day saw it out in California, like, Jennifer, you've got to get some new headshots. I said, I know. They didn't last that long, but but it's definitely coming. With some new, they're saying with maybe even like in a sort of contact lens or maybe a special eyeglass that we wear.
Yeah, so I want to get, more into what you do and who some of your customers are, but I want to back up a little bit and say, first of all, tell me a little bit about you. Where'd you grow up? What was your journey like to where you are today?
Yeah, well, I grew up, I was born in Washington, D.C., but very young, my family moved to California. And so I grew up I consider myself a Californian, even though, I wasn't born there, but I went elementary through high school out in the San Francisco Bay Area. And we all just loved living out there. It was a great lifestyle. Just loved it so much. And that really influenced me because the high school that I went to was called Monte Vista, and it was known as the Rock and Roll High School.
Oh, wow.
And the reason why is we had all the top bands that played at our school, like Journey played
No
at our
kidding.
school, Sammy Hagar Band, the Greg Kinn Band, all the.
Is that just because you were close to in the
Correct,
area,
correct. They would come to our high school to test songs.
Oh, wow.
And, I know. So, it wouldn't be uncommon to go out, aside because you'd go outside for lunch there, go outside for lunch and there was a stage and, there'd be, Journey playing,
That's
for you.
so cool.
So it was a real fun place to grow up. And obviously California, it's just when you grow up there, it's a very creative environment.
Right.
And, it's the frontier. And, it wasn't uncommon to see, movies being filmed, commercials being filmed, people in your class going for auditions.
Sure.
People wanted to be rock stars, and it was just the vibe that was out there. And so that really had an influence on me. So I stayed out there for a while. My dad got transferred back to Washington, D.C. After I graduated from high school, and I went to George Mason University.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you've been here ever since then?
Yeah, I graduated from Mason. I wanted to get back out to California. So as soon as I graduated, I went out to San Diego and I worked for a newspaper out there. And
so you were really in the media, in the news media world to start with?
Yeah. I wanted to be in the newspaper industry. I worked on my college newspaper for 4 years. I was an advertising manager.
Well, we have that in common because I was the head photographer for my college newspaper.
Oh, you were? Okay.
Was.
Okay. Yeah, it's such a fun place to hone your interests, right?
Things have changed since then because back then, we shot on film and we had to get everything camera ready. It wasn't, nothing was digital back in my days anyway.
No. Oh, yeah. Same. And, yeah, I loved working on the college paper. It was a ton of fun. And so I wanted to get a job on a newspaper. And so I went to California. I worked for a small newspaper out there, had a lot of fun. You just I couldn't live out there on my own because it was too expensive. So I came back out here to Washington, D.C., and I got really lucky. I just applied for a job at the Washington Post. Like I applied, and I got it.
Really? You just walked in and filled out an application and...
Basically, back then you filled out paper applications.
Right.
And I filled an application for a sales aide for their advertising department, and I got it. And I was like, oh my God.
For one of the biggest newspapers in the country.
I know. And
wow.
I stayed there for 15 years. A lot of people don't know that.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I was with the Washington Post company for 15 years, and I worked my way up to an advertising executive with them.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I loved it. And so it was a fun place to work, very exciting. I worked with all the New York City ad agencies. And so I really built my advertising acumen there on a national level, like doing major presentations in Katharine Graham's dining room. Katharine Graham was still there when I was there. It was a really exciting place to work.
So where did that lead then to focusing on social media? So coming
advertising. Sure.
Yeah.
So basically what happened was, and this is another skill I realized I had. So in 2000, I saw the writing on the wall. I was driving down to Washington, D.C. to go to the Post, and I noticed all the traffic was coming in the opposite direction in the morning. And they were all going out to these, what we call .com startups that people were just starting to hear about. This was back in 2000, right? 1999, 2000. And I was like, I have got to get into this or I'm going to lose my skill set.
It was the hottest thing.
It was just hot. And I was like, newspapers are dying. At that time, I was like, newspapers are dying. I need to get out of this industry. I need to get into this .com world. And so I left and I got into the .com world. And this is another thing a lot of people don't know. I sold learning management systems, online learning platforms, to Fortune 100 companies for 7 years. So I did that from 2000 to 2007. And it was really cool because the company that I work for was based out of New York City or New York. I was in Washington, D.C., and that was the first time I'd ever worked remotely from a home office. And I just thought I was the coolest thing ever.
You
you know?
didn't have to get up and fight traffic every day.
Right. But like, that was when it was kind of new,
Yep.
and I was like, this is so cool. I'm working from home, and I just thought it was really neat, and I could do it. Like, I was disciplined enough to get up
Sure.
and do it. So anyway, I had a real successful career with them, and I was making them literally millions of dollars. But I decided that I'm making them a lot of money. I would like to do that for myself. And so,
Of course.
and so I left in 2000, into 2006. I left, and in January 2007, I started the Sales Lounge. And that's where my story kind of begins into the digital world.
And what was that focus?
So basically, because I had done sales for 15 years at the Post and 7 for that .com, I wanted to go back and teach, coach sales teams, teach sales training, sales to anyone from real estate agent to corporate salespeople to whomever, was in sales. And I wanted to help them. But here's what happened. If anyone remembers, back in 2007, we're talking now about February 2007, I was knocking on the doors of all my old corporate clients and saying, hey, it's Jennifer. I'm here to teach you, sales to you. And they said, Jen, it's the beginning of the recession. I cannot have my people with you. I have to have them out with customers. And so basically what happened was I said, okay, I've got like 3 months of money left, or I'm going to have to go get another job. So I turned to this thing called Facebook. I kept hearing about this thing called Facebook. And at that time, there was 30 million people on it, and it was mostly college students. There were no books out on the topic. No one that I knew was on Facebook. And I said, you know what? If I can get on this site and there's 30 million people, if I can get 30 of them to be my clients, I'll be fine. And I literally went down. I got my headshot at the mall, and I got on this thing called Facebook. And I knew within 48 hours, that's where things were going.
Wow.
So I also realized.
So what was the telltale signs that this is where it was going?
Yeah. So basically, I just put my first update. It said, hey, I'm eager to tell the world about the Sales Lounge, right? And I closed my laptop, and I came back like 2 days later. And in my inbox, I had 2 notes. One was from someone in Canada, and another was from someone in California. And one person said, do you have a newsletter? And the other person said, do you do consulting? I was like,
wow.
I could never have reached these people because I didn't have a marketing budget.
Right.
And it was like, this is where it's going. This is where it's going. And then I started speaking around the area, and I started telling people about this thing called Facebook, and everyone thought I was nuts, and it just kind of kept going from there. But the most important thing I realized out of all that was that I realized I have an eye for trends. Like when I left the Post and I noticed that the .com companies were happening, and then I noticed that this Facebook thing was happening. I'm really good at picking up on trends, so I'm really utilizing that now in my business. Yeah, so basically I got discovered on Facebook. I kept putting these notes out on Facebook about sales tips, marketing tips, things like that. And I was literally walking out the door. This is probably about 8 months later, in 2000, towards the end of 2007, I got a call from a friend of mine, Facebook friend, and she said, listen, I've been seeing your updates, and I ran into a woman at a party who's a literary agent, and she's looking for someone that understands this social media thing. And they're looking for someone to write the Complete Idiot's Guide to Social Media Marketing. Those Idiot's Guides books.
Right, yeah. And it's a whole series of them on different subjects.
It's a whole series, yeah. And they go out and they find experts and to write the books. And I was walking on vacation, and she said, here's the thing, that you got to call her today. Like, she needs someone today. So my entire vacation, I was on the phone with the agent. I was sending in writing samples. I was interviewing, and I got it.
Wow.
And I was so excited. So I owe Facebook as well, helped me get discovered.
Wow.
And then that took me, as the book came out, and that took me onto the national stage.
Sure.
So I started doing national speaking, things like that. And basically, even though I was teaching everyone how to do social and what it was, people kept saying to me, but will you do it for me? Will you do it for me? And so that's when I launched Socially Delivered at my second book launch party. That's a social media concierge service where we actually do it for you. And I really enjoy it. It's so much fun.
Now, do you have a whole team that works with you on Socially Delivered?
Yes. We're a virtual team, virtual company. Everyone works from their homes. And they work with our clients, and we write the content for them every day. We go on live. We, talk with them over the phone. We learn what they're doing, what's happening within their business. And we are their digital ears, eyes, and fingertips.
So what's that like, managing a team of people that you don't even see day to day?
Yeah, it's been interesting. There's been a learning curve. In the beginning, it grew really, really fast. And I would basically take anyone who just raised their hand and said, I would love to come work with you. And I'd say, okay. And it didn't always work out.
Right. You wanted a warm body, right?
Yeah, I just wanted a warm body. And so now I have a much more, ambitious process, I guess you should say, of when I bring people on. They have to go through a social media audition. We do a video call. I'm listening for their speaking voice. I'm looking at their emotional intelligence.
And those things are important because they're working right with the client, right? Correct.
Whereas before, I wasn't really looking. I was just like, oh, you're willing to do it? Okay, great. So I've learned a lot about myself and hiring and all that. And so I'm much more particular about who we bring on, but it works. And we're also able to keep the prices down for our clients because we are virtual. I'm not paying that rent overhead.
Sure. So who's a typical client for you?
Let's see. It really runs the gamut. This week we just signed a law firm out of Wisconsin that's working with us. We're working with this week. We just signed an author out of San Francisco that has a big sales book coming out with McGraw-Hill. We work with a house cleaning company firm that works in the Washington, D.C. area. So it just runs the gamut. Yeah.
Companies, yeah. What are some of the challenges? I mean, I'm sure you've had this amazing career so far, but what are some of the challenges that you face throughout your career that have maybe shaped you into who you are today?
I'm trying to think. Challenges. Well, this has been interesting. Obviously, being an entrepreneur has been a big learning experience from 2007 when I launched the Sales Lounge to what I have now. Everything from, managing a budget to, watching your spending to then bringing on people, HR, that's a whole different thing,
right.
To managing sales, like just wearing all these different hats. But also the mental game of it, it can be lonely, in terms of you're working from home, you're very, very busy, your social life, can take a hit, but keeping your mind in a positive space has also been a learning process. And I've learned to just really align myself with people who are very kind of positive and outcome focused. And I'm still always learning. I'm always taking, e-courses and motivational courses and different things to learn from other entrepreneurs that have been there.
So coming from going into an office every day and interacting with a team of people to being hunkered down in your home every day, how do you make that adjustment? How do you connect physically or face to face with people?
That's the thing. Well, the good thing is that I am on the phone a lot. So I'm on the phone, I'm talking to people. So I feel like I'm getting that stimulation in terms of communication, but I also have to make an effort to get out, like physically out and meet people face to face, because you do lose that skill set if you don't continue it. And same with my speaking.
Do you think that's something that is missing, especially in the younger generation coming up? That skill set is maybe not there as strongly as it could be?
I do. Yeah, they're not that comfortable speaking, particularly even just speaking to a group of people, like in a conference setting. They're not comfortable with that. And I still think it's an important skill to have. It really is. And it goes back to, I was reading something, I think it was Warren Buffett recently, he said the number one skill still is public speaking.
Wow.
And so you have to get that. Even me, I still have to get out there and I have to practice. If I haven't done a talk in a long time, I got to, I still got to get out there. I got to practice. I got to, because you got to keep that skill up.
What is maybe a win that you had with a client? Maybe they were struggling with their social and you came alongside them and made it a win-win for them. Can you tell us about one of those type of stories?
I have a really fun story, actually. We had an app, is a gaming app that we were working with. It was a young guy, very smart guy out of California, real young person who created this game. It was a space game, and it was an app, and you'd buy the app from the iTunes store, and you'd go in and you could create these cities on these different planets. And he was doing social, but he was having a real hard, he didn't really like social. He liked building the game, you know? So he hired us and he said, I'm getting a lot of downloads. People are really liking my game and it's growing and growing and I got to keep up with that. Can you do the social? I said, yeah, we'll do it. So we started doing it. And this is really odd. I always put people on all the channels. We do Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. We do them all, Pinterest as well, to see what works. And we discovered with him that Twitter was the one that was working. Like you wouldn't have thought for this game, right?
Right. Yeah. You think.
And I was like, this is interesting. Well, what was happening was there's all these people from China that were downloading his game. So fortunately, Twitter has the translation button, so we could see what people were saying. Anyway, long story short, we grew it so much, Conrad, that he got purchased by one of the largest gaming companies. And now he's probably, he has an office in one of the...
He's on his yacht on the Pacific someplace.
Exactly. He's living in Los Angeles now. He's got an office in one of the big gaming companies. And, he's like fun. The next, Zuckerberg,
Right.
But that was a really fun success story.
What are some things you'd maybe do differently if you had a do-over?
I would definitely have learned more about like hiring people, in terms of in that process, because I went through a lot of pains in terms of hiring people and then I had to let them go. And it was just a mess there for a while,
I was talking with a friend of mine the other day. He's a business owner, an entrepreneur, and he said that it's more important to hire the right people than it is to hire the smartest people in the room.
You're right. It's like you got to have like I said, it's that emotional intelligence. It's a big buzzword right now. Yep. But people who are team players, they don't take things personally, all that good stuff. So I would say that. The other thing is you can't rest on your laurels. One of the mistakes I made, and this is just you learn, is when you have a big success, like I had the book come out, I kind of rested on my laurels there for a while. And you can't do that. I recently took a class with Sarah Blakely's husband, Jesse Eisler, and he had a lot of big wins. Like he sold a business for, tens of millions of dollars. And he said, you don't stop there. You keep going. And I stopped. Like I kind of rested on my laurels a little bit. And so that's a big lesson. I'd say, if you're planning on working for a while, you got to keep going. You got to keep looking for new clients and customers. And so that was a big lesson.
So do you ever disconnect completely from social?
I do.
And when and why?
I have to. Well, the why is I have to turn it off a bit because it's what I do full time.
Right.
And so I need to get away from it. Otherwise, I'm not clear during the week. So on the weekends, I have to have at least one day where I'm not online at all.
Wow.
So that's like a cardinal rule of mine. Like I am not online.
So no screen time?
No screen time. At all. In fact, I'm one of those strange people. I don't even get my email to my phone. I have to disconnect.
That's healthy.
Yeah. I disconnect. I'm not one of those people that's constantly, tweeting and Instagramming and doing selfies. I'm just not. And I think that affords me the opportunity during the week to be very fresh and be there for people because I do take that time off. Evenings, I tend to, cut back quite a bit. I'm not on it that much in the evenings. And so in weekends, I cut back. So I give myself that time.
Wow, I think that is so important for a healthy lifestyle.
No, it really is. And when I'm out to dinner or lunch with people, I'm not looking down at my phone. For one, my neck hurts when I do that.
How many times do we see that you're out to eat at a restaurant and you see a table full of people and they're all looking at their phones?
I see it all the time. And it drives me crazy. So I put my phone away and I'm just present. And it really helps me feel more balanced, quite honestly.
I heard one company recently had an issue with their employees going out for dinner or lunch, and they all were on their phones. And so they made a rule that said that everyone puts their phone on the table before the meal begins, and the first one to touch their phone pays for lunch.
Ooh, that was good.
So what a way to get our employees and coworkers to begin having conversations face to face instead of through their phone.
I love it.
Right?
I love it. I think that's so great.
So a couple more things before we wrap up our interview here today. Social media can be a really negative and toxic place. How do you handle the negativity and the argumentative discussions that show up on your social feed.
Yeah, it can be tough. It can be tough. Between, like I said, the negativity, or like you may see animal abuse, things like that. It's just that part can be tough. I try to block when I can, so I'm not seeing that. I limit my screen time, like we talked about. And I really do just try to focus on the positive. If I see something negative, I just kind of move through it, because it does have an impact.
Do you think social media is going to continue to grow or morph into something different?
I think it's going to morph. That's what I really do think. The trend is that email is going to start fading away, because the young people coming up don't email. They text and they talk through social media. They do talk through social, like they'll talk through their Instagram accounts, things like that. So we're going to see social is going to stay around. It's just going to have new layers to it with the virtual reality, augmented reality, but it'll continue to morph. It really will. And I don't know what that's going to look like.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see where all this goes. Who knew 15 years ago we'd be having a conversation like this over the internet through computers?
That's just it. I know. Or podcasts.
Yeah,
Look at podcasting.
Podcasting really has blown up, hasn't it?
Yeah, podcast is huge now. And so I'm so excited to be a guest on your podcast and to talk to a movie star, movie director.
Well, thank you, Jennifer. It's great to have you on the show to talk about what you do and what you love to do.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you say to that person who's starting out in business, or maybe they've just graduated from college or getting their start in their career? What are some key things that young entrepreneurs should do to set themselves up for success?
Oh, I love that question. I would say one of the things I'm telling, like I have a daughter that's 23, and I'm telling her, experiment, try new things. Don't get locked into one way of thinking of things or doing things. There's so many different points of view. The world is going to be very, very, we're in 2019 right now. The world's going to be very, very different in 2029, which is 10 years away. It's going to be so different. We can't even imagine what it's going to be like. So experiment, try new things, but also connect to people on, let's say, LinkedIn,
right,
in different industries, aside from yours. Connect to a virtual reality expert. Connect to people in Silicon Valley. Connect to people that are writers, just different types of, connect to people that are in the movie business. And because that's where the value is going to be, your connections.
Yeah, that is so important.
It is.
And making those friendships. And I don't know if you saw a thing that I started on Facebook recently where I invited a group of friends together for dinner. Just inviting people to come together who wouldn't normally have a chance to meet each other.
I love that.
We don't really have an agenda, but just to have a time for meeting face to face and making connections. Maybe making connections with people who would never, like I said, have a chance to meet.
Oh, God, I love that. I'd love to come to one time.
Yeah, I'll be sure to get you an invite to our next dinner. Yeah. You're definitely
on
the list.
It's going back a little bit to the face-to-face.
It is. It is. We've become so digitalized. I mean, digitized.
Digitized.
And I think, we're really made for that human face-to-face interaction.
No, we are, and we need it. And, you do start craving it after a while, you just have to have it. And so the younger people, I say to them, again, get out. It's not just online. Look up. Don't always look down at your phone.
Yeah.
Look around.
Right. Exactly.
and see what's around you.
Something when we would take the kids on vacation across the country, like a road trip or something, and they'd be in the back, they wanted to watch a movie. We never really had a DVD player in the car.
Mm-hmm.
But when, the phones came out, I'd be like, put your phone down, look out the window.
I know.
I mean, there's so much to see out there.
I know.
And they're like, Dad, it's boring. It's cornfields. I was like, but look, you can't see that at home where it's something different every mile. And they didn't quite always agree with me, but
their brains are wired differently than ours.
That's true.
They just are. And because I know my parents, we drove, going back and forth from California to Washington, we drove.
Sure.
And we didn't have the mobile phones. We didn't have the internet. And yes, I looked out the window.
Entertainment was the window of the car, right?
And so
there's something lost with that these days.
Is. I know. Or we're sounding old. I don't know. One of the two.
Exactly. We're telling our age.
So, what are some of the books, podcasts, or the people who have most influenced you?
Oh my gosh. That Jesse Eisler, he's married to Sarah Blakely, who started Spanx. He's really inspired me. I did a 8-week online class with him. And, he sold, I think it's Vita Coco, the Vita Coco water. And he had a Learjet business that he sold. And he knew nothing about Learjets when he got into it, nor did he know anything about the beverage industry when he got into that. And he really had an impact on me. It was just this 8-week course that I took, and it was oh gosh, I can't think of the name of it right now, but it was something about like living a fuller life, like outside of work, because I tend to be a workaholic. And he was all about like having a fuller life, and that really impacted me. Like he was thinking, okay, let's just say you're 50 years old, you really have 25 summers left.
Wow.
That's
and kind of sobering.
Think about that, like possibly healthy summers. Hopefully it's longer.
Right.
But even with biotech coming, we'll probably be living longer. But nonetheless, you're just saying. But let's just say that doesn't happen. Like things like that. He helped me look at life in a whole new way, and so that really had an impact on me. Really, really did.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was called Build Your Life Resume. That was the name of the class, and I think he still offers it.
Wow.
And so I'd recommend it. It was just a really cool class, and it really helped you look at life and work in a whole new way.
Awesome. So what's the next big thing for you?
The next big thing, I'm actually, we talk a lot about California, and I do love it, and I get a lot of clients from California. I'm going to experiment in 2019 with going out to California once a quarter and working from there one week out of the quarter.
Very cool. How fun.
Yeah. I know. And I thought, why not? I have a virtual business. I can do that. But I want to get involved in, going to some networking events and just getting to know people out there again, in terms of getting ingrained a little bit in the community. I like the lifestyle out there. So, but I also love the East Coast too. So I thought, let me do that. So that's something I'm going to try this year. And I'm also working on a book on LinkedIn.
Very cool.
Yeah.
LinkedIn is one of those things that, I use, but I really haven't been focused on it so much.
I know. And I'm telling people now, you got to get back on LinkedIn because it's really coming back around. And there's all kinds of cool things you can do, which will be in my book. But like one would be connecting to people outside your industry, getting to know them, building digital relationships. Because again, between 2019 and 2025, business is going to be done very, very differently in 2025.
Well, so what makes you say that?
Things are going to continue to move even faster. People are going to be pressed for time even more. They're going to want to connect to you faster. They're going to need to do business in new and different ways. And so they're going to need the network to help them do that. So LinkedIn, I feel, is going to be one key way to kind of really find people in all different industries, literally around the world, who you can start connecting to. You've probably had the experience where you've been connected to someone on social, but you've never met them.
Right.
But if you did meet them in person, you'd feel like you knew each other.
Right. Yep.
That's the thing. That's where, that's what we're finding is happening. But people have to, but not everyone does that. So I'm trying to tell people, you need to start, taking these digital relationships a bit more seriously.
I've hired people I've met on Twitter. For my first film, I hired a fundraiser that I connected with on Twitter, and I ended up hiring her and her partner, and they worked with me for about 3 years.
Oh my gosh, you see? Yeah, see, there's opportunity out there.
And one of the business partners for the feature film I'm working on, I met on Twitter as well. She lives in Panama, and we connected.
Wow, you see?
It's amazing who you can connect with on social media.
You see? Yeah, Twitter, I love Twitter. A lot of people think Twitter's dead, but it's not. There's a lot happening. Right. No, it's a lot happening on Twitter. Yeah. Well, that's the other thing, just what you've done. You're connecting to people globally. We have to connect to people globally. The world's getting smaller and smaller. Also, kind of heavy stuff, but the world, we're going to start having issues. Obviously, see it happening: climate, food, water, things like that. We need to kind of work together collectively to try to solve some of these problems.
Absolutely. So where can people get in touch with you? Where can they connect with you?
Sure. Well, my email's jennifer@sociallydelivered.com, delivered with the ED on the end, or they can find me at sociallydelivered.com. And I'm on Twitter @SalesLounge and @WeDeliverSocial.
Jennifer, it's been great having you on the show today. Thanks so much for spending time with me.
Yes, thank you. I had so much fun.
And I look forward to getting a copy of your new book when it comes out. Do you know what's the launch date for that?
Don't have an exact date. It'll be sometime in 2020.
Awesome.
Yeah,
thank you.
So I'll let you know.
Thanks so much, Jennifer, for taking time to talk to me. You know, I've been on social media for quite a while and seem to know a lot, but every time I talk with Jennifer, I realize how much I don't know about social media, and I'm so glad to have a friend like Jennifer who can give us insight and wisdom into managing our social media and how to better promote ourselves and advertise the work that we do through our social media platforms. So that was a fun interview, and looking forward to getting Jennifer's next book as soon as it comes out. So in the spirit of today's interview, I would love for you to connect with me on social media. You can connect on all the social pages for this podcast. Instagram, it's @MyStoryPodcast. On Twitter, it's @MyStory_podcast. And on Facebook, you can find us at My Story Podcast. Hey, thanks so much for listening today. And if you like what you're hearing on this show, make sure you hit the subscribe button and share it with your friends and family. I'm also always eager to hear your feedback and what you like, what you don't like. So if you could leave a review, I'd really appreciate it, especially those of you who listen on iTunes. If you can leave a review there on the iTunes page, that would be fantastic. And click on the 5 stars if you think it's worth 5 stars. If not, just click on the amount of stars you think it's worth. So thanks so much. Hey, next week on the My Story Podcast, we are going to hear from another friend of mine, Tim Pecoraro. Tim is from Greenville, South Carolina. He's a speaker, a coach, a trainer, and the founder of a couple of businesses, including Uphill Strategies and his related podcast, Uphill Conversations. So be sure to tune in next Monday for my interview with Tim Pecoraro. And if you like the music on today's show, it's from my friend Drew Davidson. You can get his latest album and hear all his music on iTunes, Spotify, or on drewdavidson.com. There's a link below in the podcast description. Last, if you have an idea for an interview you'd like to hear, send me a message and I'll see what I can do. Thanks so much for listening. I'll talk to you again next week on the My Story Podcast.